You can't just claim somebody white just because they own the majority of land. So I wanted to start from a page, my original page, because I'm going to prove to you that the census lied and stole land based on changing people's identity that belongs on the same exact land. That the people that are on the land are the original inhabitants of that land, and it's a whole bunch of in-laws and family members. All right, so I wanted to show something, and I put this in a previous video, the plots of land. I want people to pay strict attention to certain things, because you're going to see a common thing, and I'm going to tell you the common thing after I'm done. Now, this family, Little Johns, Knuckles, and Dawkins, this family, you're going to see inhabit this land for a very long time. So I told y'all before, my grandfather is Samuel Knuckles, who was born 1811, right? He had his own son. They went and purchased the same land that my grandfather was born on in Union County, South Carolina. They stayed on this land for the entirety of their existence. But what I want to show you is how they took family members and turned them into white and black, and in-laws into white and black, and tried to even change gender to make you think that these were like they were. You know how nowadays you got your address and your next door neighbors? Well, this isn't the case, and I'm going to show you how this isn't the case. I'm going to show you in your census, and I want y'all to start doing y'all census like this and really study the census records, because you find a lot of lies in them. So I'm just going to start. A lot of the Little Johns and Knuckles intermarried within each other and became a long line of family members. Now, right here where you see this 20, this is the value of the property, right? So this is the value of personal estate of the property. You're going to notice that anytime it is a large value of the property, they make the person white. You're going to notice this every single time. Every single time. And then they're going to try to make, even though the property owner themselves are farmers, they're going to try to make it seem like they're everybody that's online are separate individual. There's a white family, black family, and that these people are all separate and not a part of the same family, and in-laws who just marry and move on to the land, which means it's a family compound. Remember, they call these things plantations. These plantations were just family compounds, generation after generation of family living on the same land, burying in the same land, burying around the same land, buying up parts of the land, making burial grounds, and living amongst each other. So, and I'm going to show you in this video, because these people went to lengths to lie, right? So right now you're seeing the end of, not the end of somebody's family. So I'm starting with Little John Tillman, right? I didn't do this in my book because I started with one of my great grandfathers, Samuel Knuckles. I started with him. But if you go down from him, I want you to look at this number right here. This number right here, 57 and 58, that is the land plot number, right? So I'm going to go up so you can see, and I'm going to go backwards. So I'm going to start with Tillman, right? His name is Tillman. If I could get it to say his name, it would be fantastic. Oh, Silman. I'm sorry. Silman. And he was 58 years old, male. His wife, 53. His kids after that. So his rest of his kids is going to be on the following page, y'all. Give me, I'm horse. Y'all know I'm always horse. So now we're going up. We got 58 to 50. We got 57 to 58. Now, if you keep going up, you see another family above that. That is Hannibal. Hannibal Littlejohn. His name is Hannibal. Right? If they let me do it. All right. All right. So we got Hannibal right here. All right. Not James. We want Hannibal. We got Silman. Hannibal. There we go. So we got Hannibal Littlejohn, 23-year-old male. He is a male. And then you got Samuel. Right? That name was passed down a lot. The name Samuel was passed down a lot in our family. People named Cinda, Lenora, Sonora, Medora. That name was kind of passed down a lot as well. But I just wanted Samuel Littlejohn. He was 5 years old. His siblings, right? Now, I don't know if he was a widow Hannibal, because you don't see a female, right? You don't see a female, so whether or not he was a widow, I see no tally mark where it would be a widow. So maybe his wife lived on the land, but they separated her from his household, right? So if you notice, next to Hillman, sorry, not Hillman, you see the tally mark next to him to let you know to separate Silman, Little John's land. You'll see the 58 and the 57, 58, and then you'll see up here with Hannibal. Now you don't see no numbers next to Hannibal, even though he's 23 years old, right? So you don't see no number, but you in these little marks that you see, these little tiny quotation marks, is just letting you know that the children share the same last name, right, as Hannibal Littlejohn. So right next to him, you don't see any numbers, but you see that this is one household because it's going to live on the same plot of land as James, right? James is above Hannibal, right here. James Knuckles. Now, the reason why I want to show y'all this is that the Little Johns and the Knuckles married into each other. Do you understand me? And this, as I was just trying to state to y'all, even the Little Johns and other family members, if you came from the Dawkins and you lived on that land, because the Dawkins bought lands with the Little Johns and the Knuckles, and the Little Johns married the Dawkins, and some of the Dawkins also married the Knuckles, and they all family on this huge compound of land lived all together. Niece and nephews, uncles, wives, husbands, sisters, brothers, grandmas, grandpas, mothers, fathers, they all lived on this piece of land. Right? And you're going to see how I'm going to show you that this is one whole family on a plot of land. Right? So now you got James Knuckles and you got Hannibal Littlejohn. Now you see, like I told you, Hannibal being 23-year-old and his children under him, right? They don't have no number next to their name because they live with James Knuckles. This is James Knuckles. James Knuckles is 10 years old, so he's a little boy. Isaiah, Cinda, am I saying that right? Cinda, right? Knuckles, right? Sam, remember I told you that name is common in our family. That name is very much common in our family. People name a lot of their children after Samuel Knuckles' grandfather, who ran for Senate, who was a slave, who ran for Senate, and won and ran for 3 years. And so that name is commonly passed down. You see Samuel Knuckles again. He was 19. This was the grandson. This is the great-grandson of Samuel Knuckles. Henry Knuckles, Rachel Knuckles, right? So Rachel was 24 years old. Now she still lived on the land with her parents, right? So this Rachel, I'm just hypothetically speaking, could be the mother or could be the wife to Hannibal Littlejohn, right? So, but they tried to separate the households, if that makes sense. Even though the daughter married a Littlejohn, she still lives on the land of her parents, which are Knuckles. Is what I'm trying to explain. I hope I can explain that the best that I can to make you understand. So let's hypothetically say Rachel Knuckles, right here. If I can, Rachel Knuckles, as you can see her name, 24 years old, married Hannibal, right? If I can show you Hannibal Littlejohn, which you can see who's 23 years old. And let's say that Samuel, Converse, and Marietta are their children. And though she still was counted under her parents' household because she still lives with them on the same plot of land. As I told you, even though Hannibal is a grown man, there's no numbers next to his land. Next to his name, because he lived on the grounds with his in-laws, which now you see Samuel Knuckles Sr., right? Well, which is the junior, because he's the son of Samuel Sr., which is our great-grandfather. Our great-great-grandfather. But nevertheless, it's our grandfather to all of us. And so he's 59 years old. His wife's name is Siller, right? Right, Siller, she's 57 years old. And Siller, right? And then Samuel Knuckles, right? So their children lived on the same land with them. They did not leave and move to different land. They just brought their husbands over. And sometimes they would even bring over their husband's siblings or family members. Or they all lived on one land piece together, the Little Johns and Knuckles. And then they began to marry within each other. Right? And so you see that Samuel Knuckles, our grandfather, he lived on plot 56 and 57. But if you go down here to Silman, Little John, as we said previous, he lives on 57 and 58 as well. So this is letting you know that they all live on the same plot of land, and these are in-laws living with in-laws. So Silman, 53, lived on plot 57 and 58 with Samuel Knuckles, our grandfather, on plot 56 and 57. So they shared plot 57. So Silman, Little John, shared plot 57 with my grandfather Samuel Knuckles, who also lived on 57 and 56 plot of land, which is the same land, right? And Hannibal, being an in-law, right? His last name is Little John, marrying one of Knuckles' children, lives on the land as well, right? I hope that makes sense. So this is why they're breaking up the family. So let's say that Hannibal, Little John, is the son to Silman, Little John, and married Knuckles' daughter, Rachel, Little John, and they got children together living on the same plot of land. Now I'm going to keep going up. Now, my grandpa Samuel Knuckles right here, he's 57 years old. Now, above him is another now this is Ferdinand Knuckles. Now, Ferdinand is 26. Ferdinand Knuckles can be Samuel Knuckles' son, who also stayed on the land, right? And with his wife, right? Did you? I'm not. No. Yeah. So Stephanie Knuckles is his wife, who's 24, right? And they got children, Sally, right? Joanna and Lona, right? Lona is 7 months old. Okay, Joanna's 5. Sally is 9. The wife, Sophani, is 24. And her husband, Ferdinand, right? Ferdinand Knuckles, right, is 26. That is the son to Samuel Knuckles, who is 59. Right? Still living on the same plot of land, sharing it with his father. As I said before, Samuel Knuckles lives on plot 57 and 56, sharing 57 with Silman, and then sharing the same plot with his son. So his son, Ferdinand, right here, as his father, lives on plot 56 and 55, right? Now, if you go up, you have in-laws, you have Tates. Right now you see Tates. You got a Sally Knuckles. Why are we putting out a Sally? We ain't down there no more. Right? So now above them, living on the same plot of land, right? You got 55 and 56. Now you got 55, the Tate family. Obadiah Tate. If I could hit it, it'd say Obadiah Tate. Obadiah Tate is a guy, right? It's supposed to be a guy, right? Obadiah Tate, if I can get it to say his name again, well, you see it, is 25 years old, male. Female is Eliza. So Eliza, let's say, is a Knuckles. She's 21 years old. She was married to a 21-year-old husband. She got a baby, right? We don't know if Joanna Knuckles is probably a sister who lived with her family member, right? She's listed under there because she was probably in their house during the time the census taker was there. But she's probably a sibling, which is one of the children of Samuel Knuckles, our grandfather. She's 19 years old. Eliza is married to a Tate. So her first name has a O. They didn't put what the O stands for, so I don't know. It could be Octavia, because we have an Octavia Knuckles. So it could be Octavia Eliza Knuckles, and the name Octavia was passed down because we have a lot of Octavias. We pass certain names down. Octavia Samuel was one of the names. That William, James, you'll see those names are commonly names that are passed down into the family. So her name is probably Octavia Eliza Knuckles, and she married Obadiah Tate and became a Tate. And the children have the Tate last name. If they will let me do it. You know, you got to keep hitting the screen.
It's nice, it's smooth.
Okay, Stephanie. It just sometimes glitch. See, O. Eliza Tate. So O. Eliza Tate is 21. Like I said, O. Eliza is probably a Knuckles who married a Tate. And they stayed on the land. They had a huge piece of land. She didn't want to leave the home of her mother and father. Samuel Knuckles, my grandfather, and the wife Priscilla, or Siller. And so she stayed and moved her husband on the big piece of land. Okay, and where they raising a new baby. Okay. So I just wanted to show that. Elize Tate is their baby, who's 9 months old. It's a female. Right? And as I said, Lorenzo Tate. Lorenzo Tate is a boy. I'm sorry, I thought it was a girl. Lorenzo Tate is probably one of the sons. It could be Obadiah's brother. Lorenzo Tate could be Obadiah's brother, because it definitely wouldn't be Eliza's son. He's 19. So this could be Obadiah Tate took his brother in and has his brother living with him and his wife, which is O. Eliza, who is a Knuckles. Sorry, y'all. Right? So this is letting you know these people live in the same household. So Obadiah Tate shared land with Ferdinand Knuckles, who also plowed up land with his father, Samuel Knuckles. So Ferdinand Knuckles shared the 56 with his daddy, and then shared 55 with his sister Eliza, who moved her husband Obadiah Tate on that same land. And then Obadiah and his wife Eliza shared a plot with the Little Johns, Lara, who was also in-laws, right? Because remember, Samuel Knuckles, Siller, Priscilla. Now I want to drill this on home, but I don't want to take you off. Siller, I believe Priscilla is a Little John, and she and the Little John family live with the Knuckle family. Now I'm gonna go up into my family tree to go second my information to verify it. Samuel Knuckles' wife Priscilla, a Siller, as they call her, Siller Knuckles. She was a Little John originally. So going back up, this Little John family is with the Obadiah Tate, which is of the Knuckle family. These are in-laws. So I'm showing you how in-laws just live next to in-laws. That's what I'm getting at. So another in-law family member who married into the Knuckles family shared a plot 54 and 53, right? So that was Lara and Felix, right? So Lara is 60 years old. So Lara could be the sister to Siller, which is Samuel Knuckles, my grandfather's wife. She could be, he. Now, I think this is a woman. They say it's a man, but I don't believe them. Like I said, I believe they purposely change genders to confuse you. Nobody ever named the man Lara. So this is Lara. I believe this is the sister to Siller. And people would say, well, what would be the reason for you to change this into a male? Well, I personally don't know. I want to say that they were trying to make these not in-laws and try to make these more like people who just lived in, like these houses were separate and these were just separate addresses when it was just one plot of land. And they didn't want to show relation, maybe, because there's no way in hell that Lara is a female, you know what I mean? I mean, a male, but, to each his own. They claim it's a male. I don't believe so, but anyway. Laura's 60. You see little Felix, who has the same Little John last name. Little Felix could have been living with his grandmother, and maybe he was helping his grandmother out because maybe she was sick. So they let the 9-year-old young man stay with grandma for whatever reason. Whatnot, woo-de-woo. Because you know how black people sometimes let the children stay with the grandparents. So you don't see a man beside her. Doesn't mean she's not married. Her husband could be somewhere up here and they just separated it. I don't know. I just know that all these people, she lived on the same plot, 54 and 53, whom she will then share with a 41-year-old Scott, Benji F. Scott. Now, I want you to keep in mind that you're going to see Benji F. again, but his last name is going to be Benji McClure, right? It's going to be Benji F. McClure, right? So this is Benji Scott, and it's going to be a Benji F. McClure. Now, if there's relation to them, I'm uncertain. But this is Benji F. Scott. All right, another in-law. He was Benji F. Now, he's living on the same land to the Little John Laura, and the same land that was shared with Obadiah Tate, who was married to Eliza Knuckles. So just keep going. So the Scott, right? So that means that Susan Scott originally probably was a Little John, and that Laura, 60 years old, and this is why they broke this up like this. They broke this up on purpose, and this is what I'm trying to prove the point. They broke this up on purpose because now you understand that Laura Little John is the mother, probably, to Susan. Here we go. Susan's Little John, who married a Scott. Right? And the little kid, Felix Little John. Now, why Felix would have a separate name than everybody else, I believe that Felix belonged to Scott, but they were trying to leave one of the children as a Little John to belong to show the Susan used to be a Little John. Now, why they wouldn't just call her Susan Little John Scott so that you understand she married into the Scott family is beyond me. But I guess because it's not a big enough spot. So they took one of the children and made one of the children a Little John to cause confusion. But Felix belongs to Scott and Susan. That is their son. He's not some little random kid that was enslaved by them. That's their son that they tried to make a Little John to cause confusion when Susan is the mother of Felix and the father Benji Scott. So his name is really Felix Scott, and he belongs to them, right? And then their 3-year-old brother, 5, 12-year-old sister, 15-year-old sister as well. So, it's just basically they, Bosanquit Scott, Bosanquit. I don't know why you would name, well, that's, Bosanquit sounds French, but I don't know. But anyway, Scott, and this Scott family, that's Little John's married into, right? So, again, sharing the same plot of land. To cause confusion, like I said, they made Felix a Little John and not a Scott, even though he's 9 years old, unless the mother, Little John Laura, at 60 had a baby, you know what I mean, who's 9 years old, which is not unheard of, but still, right? And again, all on the same land. Again, so Benji F. Scott is on land plot 53 to 52, shared with the Little John. Then you got, all right.
Yeah, this one looks like a nice, like almost like a bar.
I'm going to try my best, guys. I know we're running, but I try to tap. Okay, so we got Celia. Now remember, Celia, Priscilla, they're all kind of like derivatives of the grandma's original name, Samuel Knuckles' wife. So the daughter name is Celia. Celia marries a Cannon, right? She marries Pickney Cannon, right? So, right? So, hold on. Trying to get the names up. So, Pickney Cannon is a male. He's 40 years old. He married Celia. Celia. Now, Celia could be of the Little John line, who married into the Knuckle family, right? So the last name changes based on who you marry. So the line started with the Knuckles, married a Little John. So her last name, she's of the Little John family, so she belongs to a Lara Little John, who was probably originally the daughter. Lara is the daughter of Samuel Knuckles, my grandfather, right? No, sorry. They would be siblings. Sorry. Sam would be the siblings to my grandfather, Samuel Knuckles. She married a Little John, right? Lara married a Little John, had her children who stayed on the land, because, like I said, siblings all live together. So Sarah Little John is the sister to Samuel Knuckles, which means that she was a Lara Knuckles first. And then she married a Little John. And her children stayed on the land, right? Susan Little John married Scott, right? Susan, I told you. Susan, if I can do it again. Come on, Nabbit. Come on. Susan Little John, who original family line was Knuckles, but from the daughter, married, the mom, Lara, got married to a Little John, right? Her children, Susan, right, is a Little John now, and she married Scott. And they had their children, Lucia, Edward, and John, right, and Felix. And then Lara's Little John married, Lara Little John's daughter, Celia, right, named after, again, the Knuckles, wife to keep the name. Celia married Cannon. So Celia Little John would be her maiden name before she was married. Her married name is a Cannon. Now she's Celia Cannon, and she had her children, which you see: Moses, Lara, James Smith is here, which means her daughter was 20 years old. Her daughter, she was a Canaan, and Jane. Hold on, her name would be Jane Canaan. Jane Smith. She married a Smith. Their daughter, at 20 years old, married a Smith. Her name is really Jane, but she winds up marrying a Smith, right? They got two daughters that are 20 years old, right? So you got Smith and Laura. You got Jane and Laura. Sorry, y'all. I'm just trying to give y'all an example how these people are family members, all marrying into each other's family and staying on the same land. And if they marry outside the family, they bring in the in-laws family to live on this land. So they have plot 53 to 52 with the Little Johns, 53 with Tate, 54, 55, 55 with 56 was Ferdinand, 56 and 57 with Samuel, our grandfather. Right? Just showing you how this was all the same dwelling place. Right? So these are just in-laws all marrying into the same family. Now here's the funny part. You see how you see Lara and Felix, and Lara is 60. And next to it you got Black, right? Now you see where they tried to make these people white? All of the same family now. But they want to break it up and tell you these people are white. Why? Because the amount of value of the land. See? They took the biggest majority of the land, value at the estate, value of real estate owned. So they owned 1,500. The land was valued at 1,500, then like 40 to 60. This was originally a 60. This is 25, which was originally somebody written over it, so it's much larger. 100. This is the land that's owned. Even the Black side owned 100, valued at $100, right, of Samuel Knuckles. But they wanted to give the biggest majority to call these people white. But I showed you, these people are not pale-skinned peoples. These are people who own that land that married into the Knuckles and Little John family. They're not white. And they called them, changed the census and called them white based on the land that they owned. Right? So, Eliza, right? Like I said, Ferdinand, 26 years old, she was a Knuckles. She married a Tate. Right? She married a Tate. Right? Now I showed you this plot of land. This 54, the plot of land is still the 54. Lara Littlejohn lives on too with the Tates. Right? Right? Remember, as I told you before, the Littlejohns married into the Knuckles. Right? So the daughter married up. So like I said before, Lara Knuckles married a Littlejohn and stayed on the land with her father. With her brother, sorry. I'm just trying to give an example. So Samuel Knuckles grew up on this Union County, South Carolina, with his sister, who would be Lara Knuckles. Right? She would be his sister. She married a Littlejohn. And that Littlejohn, that Littlejohn married a Tate. That Knuckles married a Tate, or that Littlejohn married a Tate. So like I said, I want to say that Eliza is a Knuckles and she married a Tate. Right? So Ferdinand Knuckles, his sister, Eliza Knuckles, married Obadiah Tate. Right? And Obadiah Tate lives on plot 54 along with Lara, Felix, and Edward John, lives on the same land as Susan. Right? So Susan, like I said, Lara is the sister. So this is the sister's bloodline right here. You got Lara, her daughter is Susan. She marries a Scott. So Lara stayed with her sister. Lara, the mother, stayed with her brother, Samuel Knuckles, on the land. Married a Littlejohn. Littlejohn married into the Littlejohn family that lived on the same plot along with the other Knuckles. And then her daughter, Lara's daughter, Susan, who's 33, married a Scott, moved on the same plot of land, right? As you can see. Hopefully y'all following. And on this land, right? Because now Susan, because Lara is a Littlejohn, Susan is a Littlejohn, right? That's her daughter, but she married a Scott. So now she's Susan Littlejohn Scott. She married Benji F. Scott, right? So they're going to try to make them white people, but they are not white people. They are not white people. They're all in the same family, and these are a whole family of black folk. And then Scots, and then Scott married, and then after that, living on the land as well, is Cannon, right? Why? Because Celia, remember the grandma named Scylla or Priscilla, got a daughter named Celia, who married a Cannon, Pickney. Now she's 38 years old, so she's a sister to Susan. Susan is 33. Celia is 38, right? So Susan is 33 down here. You can see Susan, 33, being a daughter to Lara. Sarah. So Lara is the mom. She's a Littlejohn right here, right? Her daughter, Susan, married a Scott. And then her oldest daughter, one of her older daughters, Celia, married a Cannon, right? So now you got the Cannon line all living on the same Littlejohn Knuckles plot. See how the Scots married to the Susan Littlejohn live on plot 53 with the mother Lara Littlejohn. Then 52, so Scott and Benji and Susan live on plot 53 and 52 with mothers Lara Littlejohn. And sharing that same plot of land, 52, right? 51 to 52 would have been, but they called it 51. You have Cannon, Dinky, a Pickney, however you say his name. He black too, right? And married Celia. Now notice again, like I said, when there's a big plot of land, right? Now see how Lara Littlejohn, she's black, but she owns 25 to 60. You can see somebody changed the number, right? So it used to be another number. It could have been 90, could have been 90 or something, and they tried to, I don't know, I can't tell, but they drove over it. They drew over it. It made it 25. So right now, this is the value of the land. So she owned Black Littlejohn. She value of personal estate, her personal estate, she owned of that same land was at $25, valued at $25. You see Black Lara, her value of her estate was $25 that she owned, a plot of that land, right? And then the biggest plot of the land was probably passed down or given to the male, who was Scott Benjamin F. It could be Benjamin Franklin Scott, right? Because that's probably what it is. Benjamin F. Scott, right? Benjamin Franklin Scott. They made him white. He's not white. This is Susan Scott, his wife, as I said before, which was Lara's daughter, who lived on the same plot of land with them. They shared the same 53. You see 53 next to Benjamin, and you see 53 next to Lara. So that lets you know they lived on the same plot. She putting farmer next to her name just to make her seem like she was a worker, right? That's what they did on purpose. They put that there. She was just an old woman living there. She wouldn't know the goddamn work. She could have farmed the land too, but she's here owning land, right? So they try to make you think she ain't. If she a peasant, why she got land she owned? Look at that, right? And like I said, the biggest majority of the land, valued at 100, they make them white. But we already proved that Eliza, she belongs to Knuckles, right? Just keep going up. All right, so you got the baby up here. That's because you had another Little John. Now you see how it's being done. How the Little Johns is marrying into family members. And Knuckles was the original, and then they married into the Little John, and then the Little John daughters and stuff marry into Scotts and Canaans and Smiths, right? So now you got the baby at the top. She only 4-month-old. On the next page is her family, right? So hold on, we gotta let it load. Now we're gonna start at the bottom of this census, right? And the reason why I'm starting at the bottom is because you saw the little baby at the top who was a Little John, right? She was a Little John, okay, from the previous video page. Just slow it down if you need to go back. But she was a Little John, and she was only a couple of months old. Here's her brother Joseph, right? Little John, if I can hit it there. Her brother Joseph, he's a male, he's black, allegedly, right? That's what they call. Then you got Delia. Right, you're going to see that name too. Celia, Delia, Priscilla. All of it is stemming from Samuel Knuckles' wife, Priscilla, Delia. These are derivatives of trying to keep her name within the confines of the family. So Delia is a Little John, right? So she probably is the daughter to Lara Littlejohn, and Lara Littlejohn is the sister to Samuel Knuckles, who married into the Littlejohn family. All right? I just want to keep y'all going so y'all understand why we're seeing Little Johns. So this is one of the sons of the Littlejohn family that married another Little John, right? Delia Littlejohn. She's a Little John, married a Little John or a Knuckles. Married either a Knuckles or a Little John, right? And became a Little John. So she's 25 years old, right? These are all on the same plots now. Remember, on a previous plot, they also had 51 and 50. This is same family. They're all on the same plot of land, right? Delia, she's married to Durbin Littlejohn. He's 30. Hell, I don't know. Delia's original name. So this is this is a Littlejohn's son. So this is probably Laura's son, Durbin, who married Delia. And then they had their little children. So her son, Durbin, stayed on because he would be in Knuckles. I'm sorry, forgive me. No. If the mother changed the name, they'd be a Little John. Sorry. Sometimes I get mixed up. I'm trying to just show y'all. So yes, this would be the mother. Laura's son, Durbin Littlejohn, and this is her son who married Delia and had their 2 children who are babies. Right. So, hoping I didn't confuse anybody, and this makes sense. Then you go up, seeing 50. They shared the same land with the previous Cannon family, who married into the Littlejohn family, which is Laura Littlejohn, and married her daughter Celia. The Cannon family married the daughter Celia. Now this is her brother, Durbin Littlejohn, who married Delia, living on the same plot of land as the Cannons, who married into the Littlejohn family, right, from the previous. So they're still on the same land. Now you got 50 and 49. All right. Now you have Hiram. Hiram Littlejohn. Now Hiram Littlejohn is another brother. He is the brother to Durbin, right? Durbin and Herman, right? So Durbin and Herman, you can see they brothers. Durbin and Herman, brothers, all right, of the Littlejohn family that belongs to the sister of Samuel Knuckles, which is Laura, right? And then Atlanta, whom I want to go back and check later, because one of our great-great-grand aunts or grandmas is Atlanta Littlejohn. Now, in our family, one of the things that did happen, and this is true, is that incest started to happen because they started living amongst each other and cousins were marrying cousins. This is true. It's known in our family. Cousins started marrying cousins as a result of maybe keeping the land within the same family, but they did start to do that. But let's keep going. Atlanta Littlejohn, she was 4 years old, and you got Benjamin, Nero, Clayton, Millie, and like I said, Millie is his wife. Her last name is not listed, but she's now a Littlejohn because she married Hiram, right? This is Laura's son. And then you see a Dawkins. Now we're gonna go up. Now they're, again, like I said, they're all living on the same. Durbin is living with his brother on the same plot of land, 49 and 49. They share plot 49. Harriman and Durbin share plot 49. They live on the same plot. But Herman also shares plot 48. Right? Right? Okay. Excuse me, they're trying to draw the line to break the family apart and call the biggest majority of the landowner. Now, like I told you, 65,000. This is why they try to separate them and call them white. But we're going to show you that they are not white. They're just a part of this family, and they own the land. So we're going to show, right? So again, as we were going from the name, Herman and Durbin share plot 49, and then 48 is shared with, okay, Lucinda. Now Lucinda and Elvery Dawkins. Now, here's the kicker here. Remember how I told you they changed names on purpose? They changed names on purpose. I mean, not names. They changed gender on purpose. Right? They changed name on purpose, genders on purpose. So as I said before, you see Hiram, plot 49 and 48, also shared with McClure, Kelly McClure, right? Nellie McClure. Nellie McClure, they say, is a female, but I don't believe that at all. Nellie McClure is a unisex name, but I believe Nellie is a male. Nellie McClure, right? Nellie McClure has a child, Nimrod McClure, and then another daughter named Emsley McClure. If I can hit it and it'll name it. Emsley McClure, who's 9. She's a female, that's a male. And Nellie, I believe, is a male. But they tried to make him a girl, right? So that they can try to separate and make the McClure white. So, and take away that person's ability to marry into that family because they own so much land. It would prove that these are in-laws just marrying into the same family, right? So we have Nellie McClure, 40 years old. You could say somebody tampered with the age, right? We have I'm going to make sure I say this name right, if they would let me. You have Elvira Dawkins, right? And you have a Lucinda McClure. Come on, damn you. I can't stand when it does that, when it doesn't, like when you just tap it, normally it would just show the name and then out of nowhere. So you got a Lucinda McClure. Now, I'm going to show you what they did. They tampered with the record. Why did they tamper with this record, you ask? Because Nellie McClure married Lucinda, who was a Little John, right? So Harum and, as I said before, Harum and Darum all share the same plot of land, right? You're looking at the same thing. I'm trying to explain this the best that I can explain it. So I get a little tongue-tied, but stay with me because it's the only way you're going to see to figure out how to fix your family's bloodline and what really went down. So you got to pay attention, right? So Nellie McClure is a man. Nellie McClure is a man. It's not a woman. Nimrod and Emsley is the kids of Nellie McClure and Lucinda McClure. Lucinda is a Little John. Lucinda is 48. Nellie is 40. Now, Elvira Dawkins was 27. And somebody tried to turn it into 37 and make all three of them seem like all three of these. They tried to make Nellie, Elvira, and Lucinda all women. So you don't know that Lucinda McClure really is Lucinda Littlejohn married Nellie McClure, right? Who is 40 years old, and he's a black man, right? Nellie is a black man, but they try to make him a woman so that you don't know that he is not a mother, but a father to Nimrod and Emsley, who married Lucinda, who is a McClure, his wife. And Elvira, 27, is probably is their daughter, right? She married a Dawkins, right? Okay, she's older now. She's 27. That's why you see the scribble scrap. That was originally a 2, right? And they try to make it a 37. That wasn't originally a 37. This is their daughter, Eliza McClure. Nellie McClure. Nellie is a man. Lucinda is the wife, right? This is proof that the McClure family is black because Nellie is a black man, but he's a McClure, and they're gonna try to they try to make him a servant. Look, they try to make him a servant. They try to make him a servant. Look, try to make him a servant. Then they try to keep Lucinda, who's 48 years old, trying to make her a servant too, right? These are husband and wife, McClure. I'm going to show you, right? So like I told you before, Nellie is the man, not a female, who married Lucinda, who's 48. They have their children, which are Elvira, Nimrod, Emsley. Okay? Now living on the same plot, 48 and 47. Shared that plot, like I said before, 48 with the Little Johns. And I'm letting you know that Lucinda is a Little John who married Nellie McClure, right? Now, the McClure family, these are all the McClure. This is Nellie's sibling, right? Nellie's either siblings or, this is either Nellie's sibling that's living up here, McClure, or, would have to be a sibling, right? So Nellie is 40. He's older. He's the older brother. And he's marrying Lucinda Little John, right? So up ahead, right, of the same McClure family, 47 and 46, married Jane P. Little John, right? So the McClure boys married Little John girls. So Nellie McClure married Lucinda, and J.W. McClure married Jane P. Little John, right? So this is the same family bloodline, right? They're living on the same plot. See how Nellie lives on the same 47 plot and 48 with the Little John harem in Durham, right? So you see how they lived on the same plot of land. Now you got J.W. McClure, who married Jane P. Little John. So this is all the same family, but look, they got him as white, trying to separate him. Now, the sibling or child of the McClure married a Simmons, right? But lived on the same plot of land with the McClure family. So these are in-laws living on land together. Jane P. Little John and her husband, J.W. McClure, and their children and their siblings lived amongst the Little Johns because this is the family that they're coming out of. And then the family that was originally the Knuckles, right? So these are the children of the Little John daughter, who was a Knuckles and married into the Little John, and now her children have the Little John last names. And her children, Laura Little John's children, married McClures, married Dawkins, married Cannons, and Tates, is what you're seeing, right? So these people are not white. And the reason why they're giving them that whiteness is because they own property, value of real estate, $6,500, worth $6,500 of that time, worth $300 of that time, right? Now they're trying to say he came from England. Then they got Carolina here, South Carolina here for Mary. Why they got next to the daughter Mary, South Carolina, from the same father, and all the kids was born South Carolina, and they try to tell you England. This is how they erase people. Now putting England will give him a foreign identity, but there's no proof in that. There's no proof that this family is English. They just put it next to the name to take the land. This is how they've been stealing, y'all. This is how they have been stealing. They make them foreigners, then they make them white. This is all free peoples. This is all free peoples of color who own this land and married amongst themselves. All that was sharing that same inhabitants of land. All right, as I told you before, Jane P. Little John, the daughter, one of the daughters, our nieces, of Laura Little John, who was originally Laura Knuckles to our grandfather Samuel Knuckles, right? So her children married a McClure. Foster Dairy. Now somebody married a Foster, right? Somebody married a Foster who lives in the same McClure family. who lives on the same plot. Now you got 4746, the Foster family, right, shares the same plot as the McClure. So what happened, right? So one of the granddaughters or one of the Laura's grandchildren or children, right? Harriet married, because look, Franklin Littlejohn. So they tried to keep the Littlejohn name to let you know that the child, because look here. You have Foster Derry. He's only 5 months old. He's a baby. He's living on the same plot of land, 46, with a Franklin Littlejohn who's also a baby. He's 3 years old. But notice how Perry, if I'm saying Perry Foster is 5 months old, right? He's living on the same land as Franklin. So Perry and Franklin are living on the same land as each other. And his name is Littlejohn. Franklin's name is Littlejohn. Now they're going to try to make you think, oh, they're so different. No, Franklin and Perry are siblings, right? Their mother, Harriet, is 22 years old. Harriet, right? Her last name, Harriet's last name is Foster, right? So where'd they get this Littlejohn from? How does this Franklin Littlejohn just shows up out of nowhere, 3 years old? That's because Harriet's last name is Littlejohn. Harriet's last name is Littlejohn. Okay? This is their mother, right? Female. She had 2 males. Perry and Franklin is her son, Harriet. Now above her is a Barry Foster. Now Barry, they say, is 19. I don't personally believe he's 19. I believe somebody used whiteout to make his age like that, because next to him is breaking down the plot of land, right? He's a male. I believe Barry, she named her son Perry after his father Barry, or his name was originally Perry, and they made it a B to make it Barry, so that you could believe that these are just simultaneous family members just sticking together. And just, you know how they lie, right? They're trying to make it so that this is not father, husband, wife, and son, because it then proves that in-laws were just living with in-laws on the same plot of land. So, and you see, this is Perry, or his name really is Barry, and you see how somebody messed it up so that you wouldn't see the line go in, right? So this baby name is probably Barry Foster. His brother name is Franklin Foster, but because the mother name was Harriet Littlejohn, the name Littlejohn, they gave the second son the Littlejohn name, and then gave the littlest son the Foster name. But Barry and Perry and Franklin and Harriet are mommy and daddy and son of the Foster family. That because Harriet, this is her land, but he's the man, so because he's the man, they'll put the plot next to him, but it really is her land because she's of the Littlejohn family, right? So they'll put the plot of the land next to the head of household, but that doesn't mean they are the owners of the land. Does that make sense? The children, the daughters, or the sons are the owner of the land of the Littlejohns, but they're putting the plot of land next to the head of household. So I want you to stay with me, because this is the trickery of the census and how they stole our land. So I hope this makes sense. So you see how it has next to Barry Foster? You see how next to Barry Foster, they got the land next to him, the plot, 45, 46, that's because he's the man. But really, that land belongs to Harriet. She's a Littlejohn, of Laura Littlejohn. That's her land. But they're going to give it to, because he's the head of household, and how census always make the head of household at the beginning, they put the plot of land next to Barry. But that's not his land. That is Harriet's land, because she's of the Littlejohn family. And it's the same thing that was done when you saw, let me go back. I want you to understand what's going on, how they stole our land, sweetheart. This is how they stole it. Stay in tune. We'll show you how this land was stolen from us. Right? So now you have Amanda. Amanda is a Little John, Amanda Holmes. Now, because her husband, Benjamin Franklin Holmes, because he is the head of household, it's next to him, the plot of land. But it really belongs to Amanda, who is a Little John, right? In the plot of land 50. This is her land, not his. He was just put first. Now, Amanda Little John, the sister to Harum and Barham, however you say that, Burdham, she lived on a plot of land with them as well. And this is her land, but they got it next to him because he's the head of household, right? And she married a Holmes. So Ann Holmes is really Ann Littlejohn, right? So I'm going to go back again to drill what I was saying on home. See right here where they tell you these people are white, Bay Scott? No, this belongs to Susan, who they tried to make separate. Susan is a Little John. Susan belongs to Lara. Remember, Lara Littlejohn lives on the same plot, 53, with Benjamin Franklin Scott, right? Plot 3, 53, you looking at the 53, Lara Littlejohn, she lives on the same land with her daughter, because that's her land. As you see, the grandma owns land right here, big portion of land. They try to scrab it out, right? So you don't know that this black woman owns this land, okay? She owning land, Little John, proof. This is even proof, right? Her daughter, Susan, owned that land, just like her mother. Her mother passed it to her, over 1,500 acres of land, which was more valued at 1,500. This is Susan's land. She married Scott, Benjamin Franklin Scott, who's the head of household. That's why the plot is next to him, and they put it all like it was in his name, but that's really the wife land. He's living on a wife land. Does that make sense? It's the second part of, I'm trying to show y'all how they stole this land from the Little Johns and Knuckles, and how they made people who are not white by way of meaning that they were free. Because if white meant that a person was pale in complexion, Walter Plecker would not have had to go into these census records where they had dark skin, some light skinned people passed as white on these census records because they were free. And he said, we're going to redo that and make everybody their designated race. That's when they cast white as being a race. And that's how they were able to steal the land. So when you saw W next to it, just meant that person was free. They own land. Then these designations for black, calling free people black to take away their social status. These were all free American Indian groups who, by way of these labels, even calling them white, because they were free, they had money and they owned land, you now cast them a certain way. And now, when you, in 1924, make white mean race, you steal the land. Even though these are all the same family members marrying to brown-skinned people, this is how you steal. Right? So this is how this land belongs to Susan, who is a Little John, who married a Scott. And then that's why you see on the other page, you see more Little Johns, and they'll try to break it up and make you think that these people are a separate family. No, these people all lived on the same exact plot of land. In-laws with in-laws. All deriving from the Knuckles family. Married the Little Johns, who stayed on the land. Little Johns married the Cannons. Little John married the Scotts. Little Johns married the Dawkins. So I hope this makes sense. I hope people understand or overstand it. This is how land got stolen.